I have to start off, I guess, by saying that it's a wonderful idea to always have events in New York City because the population is so large, you're going to have a standing room only crowd every time you do an event. I was really tired when I walked through the door this afternoon to Judson Memorial Church. And I do have to say a word of appreciation because I've been to Judson Memorial so many times, and it means that they have the kind of leadership that welcomes this kind of meeting. I have to say thank you to the International Action Center because they organize these kinds of meetings all over the country. And then I have to state a word of admiration to the young people of Occupy because for, I don't know, too many years that I've been involved in politics, one of the things that I have regretted is that my generation did not adequately mentor young people into the struggle the way my father's generation mentored my generation into the struggle. And so the young people organized themselves. And now we have an opportunity to respond to that in a very supportive way and say thank you to the young people of Occupy for struggling through all of the issues that they're struggling through now. Now, my son is about to graduate from law school. And so that's wonderful because the student debt, please. The student debt, one of those hats that I'm wearing, is I'm a student myself now. And you have to question what kind of a society would place a banker in between a professor and a student? What kind of a society would place an insurance bureaucrat who knows nothing about medicine in between a doctor and a patient? What is it that our country is becoming and we are witnessing? Literally before our very eyes, the hollowing out of everything that was built by not only the greatest generation that did a lot to build this country, but all of the generations prior to, all of those generations of enslaved Africans who worked sun up and sun down. Some of them died of starvation, but they helped to build this country. They built the White House. They built the Capitol. All of the people who have come here from other countries because, quite frankly, U.S. foreign policy decimates their ability to live in dignity in their own countries. And how in the world can we sit and suffer through the further dehumanizing of these people who would rather not leave their families, their communities, their countries, their homes to come here and be mistreated? So I was really tired because I mentioned that I'm a student too. Well, I've done several things. I'm wearing a lot of different hats. And this hat is a bicycle hat. I have an accomplishment to brag about. I just put a century on my new bicycle. I cheated a little bit. I had to stop every 15 minutes. I'm really out of shape. But I put 100 miles on my new bicycle over the course of 2 days. So that was one thing. But then when I got back, I had a paper that was overdue, and I had to get to work writing the paper. And I stayed up all night last night until this morning writing the paper. So when I walked through the door, I was really tired. But then you all started to come. And I saw people, some of you know I've slept over at your houses. You have served me coffee and tea and food. And you are my friends. Something that people in political life don't have friends. You know, really don't have friends. But some of us are lucky enough to know that we don't walk this walk of resistance alone. And that's what this room is all about. I wrote down that we're going to embark upon the Build People's Power Tour. I'm going to shorten it a little bit and say this is our pushback, fight back tour. Because we will organize there are people I know all over this country who are waiting for the message. They're waiting for the vision. They're waiting for the definition, and they're waiting for the spark. And what I can confidently say is that there's more of them today than there were just a few years ago, because the situation has deteriorated so much in the last few years. We've got far more believers now than we had when some of us were just preaching out there on the street. My very first congressional campaign theme was warriors don't wear medals, they wear scars. And that was because the second poorest district in Georgia, where people got up every day and went to work, and they didn't have running water in their homes when they came home at night, sent me to Washington, D.C. These were people who were willing to give and give and give and give and expect nothing in return except that their community would be a better place for them and that their children would have an opportunity for a future. That's all they asked for. But I'm tired of seeing our warriors wear scars. It is about time that we begin to wear some medals. But we have to define what those medals are. I think, let me just say, Japan lost a decade. Indigenous people and Native Americans lost generations. Some of us believe we have nothing more to lose, and the rest of us believe that we refuse to lose anything more. So, what are our medals? I believe in the end, our medals is the transfer of state power from those who abuse and oppress us to us, we the people. That is our medal. A public policy made by us that reflects our values. Now, how do we get there? Some of us are going to have to get out of our comfort zones. And I know people in this room, you all don't have comfort zones. You have no boundaries. There's no edges, there's no toes to step on in this room, because we are one engaged in resistance to what is happening to our country. But one of the persons on the panel talked about, is my sister from the Postal Service. So we have to contact our member of Congress. If we had a member of Congress, that really represented us, we wouldn't have to contact them. And that goes for school board, city council, the assembly, and all offices that are on our ballots, including judgeships. And that means that we have to occupy the ballot. So in Georgia, we are organizing, literally as I speak, a program to occupy the ballot. Now, I would like to see it statewide. I would like to see in Georgia one of the most backward electoral states in the union. Of course, you know, we got Newt Gingrich. We produced Newt Gingrich, and he talked about invented people. Well, maybe he was speaking from personal knowledge. But in Georgia, imagine if we could follow the example of the Vietnamese and have a Tet offensive of independent and third-party candidates running for office and asking the people who identify themselves as independents to occupy the ballot. Let's get some of our people elected outside of the two-party paradigm. I used to be a firm believer. Well, my daddy was a firm believer in the Republican Party because down in Georgia, they didn't let black people vote in the Democratic white primary. That's what it was. It was the white primary. And if you were politically active, you had to be a Republican. So now, you know, we have 99.9% of black people voting Democrat. And the Democratic Party is a party of war. It's a party of injustice. What? GMOs. Trying to conquer the earth. How are you going to conquer Mother Nature? So, this Tet offensive of all of these candidates going out, we have to collect signatures in Georgia to get on the ballot. Going out and collecting signatures and providing an opportunity for people to get out of the two-party paradigm. And if we could do it in Georgia, which has the country's most restrictive ballot access laws, if we can pull that off, then I know we can do it anywhere in this country. We have one advantage in Georgia, though, and that is that's where I live. And I still have a few people who like me down there. They've turned off the special interest press and tuned in to what their real interests are. So maybe if we could get some help as a part of this Push Back, Fight Back tour of people who are willing to send a PayPal donation through the internet or come to Georgia and help us knock on some doors and say, especially now that they redistricted Ron Paul out of there, who's going to talk about the Federal Reserve in the Congress? Now that they've redistricted Dennis Kucinich out of the House, who's going to talk about the responsibility, the War Powers Act, and the presidential accountability? Who of the 535 people down there, who is going to protect the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, our right even to protest, to have a Push Back, Fight Back tour? Well, if I were in the Congress, I would. So I don't want to be too self-serving. But I want to paint a picture of the possibilities. In Cote d'Ivoire, before the French tanks rolled up to the presidential residence and pulled Laurent Gbagbo and his wife and family out of the house and put them in the dock. In Côte d'Ivoire, people took to the streets and they banged on pots and pans when the same oil interests were trying to take Côte d'Ivoire in about 2006 or so. They fought back, they pushed back, they fought back. And then the world militaristic community pushed back against their pushback. And this is what we get now. Côte d'Ivoire is up for sale, still under the wing of the French and the Western powers. To engage in struggle means that we have a chance to win and we have a chance to lose. They might define for themselves what winning is, but we can define for ourselves what a victory is. And anytime we engage power, brain cell for brain cell, brawn to brawn, and make them come out of the shadows and into the daylight to do their dirty work, I consider that a victory. We will have won. So that is what I see as a goal and a vision for this Pushback Fight Back tour, because we will demonstrate the people's will. We will show them that we know what they're up to and that we're not afraid to engage them, to confront them, and even beat them. And we can win. So I think that now we will engage in the dialogue that I know you all have come here for, the planning session after that, and the agenda. The agenda, which is the people's agenda. I'm wearing this People's Organization for Progress. That's one heck of an organization. And we are a heck of an organization too. Thank you.